Good afternoon. This is Jill again, and I promised everyone I'd discuss another small section of the book, so why don't I just get right to it? Let me pull it up. I forgot exactly where I left off yesterday, so I think I read two paragraphs. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. Okay, here we are. Then, as hit with the identical smart bomb dropped on Milosevic's presidential palace in Serbia the night, which I believe was April 22nd, 1999, political science chairperson then at the New School for Social Research, Division of Political Science, Professor David Plotke summoned me into his office before class that evening and dismissed me from the master's program at the New School for Social Research, owing to what he, quote, considered my possessing, quote unquote, unsavory political science opinions. I think I touched on this yesterday. Mr. Plotke called me in his office, took out a red Swiss Army knife, came towards me with it, and said, "Jill, you're not going to like it, but you're not going to graduate." Even though he had sent me a letter stating that in 3 weeks that I was going to graduate, and I already ordered my cap and gown. And he used that incident later to use my disability against me. And every time I applied to a new graduate school and took out another student loan to do a political science master's degree program over again, which I tried at Fairleigh Dickinson, and I also tried to get into Seton Hall diplomacy program. The teachers there confided in Arnold, because he was quote unquote one of them, that the new school had called them before I got there for my entrance interview and told them not to accept me because I have unsavory political opinions and I could be dangerous because I had psychiatric problems and I was depressed. And David Plotke claimed that he took the knife out to quote unquote protect himself. Dr. Eileen Brunner at Fairleigh Dickinson, when Arnold, Professor Stark, and I went to my first entrance interview at Fairleigh Dickinson, the political science department in Teaneck, New Jersey. Dr. Brunner interviewed me, and she said, "Sit down. Don't feel frightened to sit next to me." And I didn't know what she was talking about. And she said, "Well, the new school called me and said you were dangerous, but I really didn't take them seriously. So sit down. You seem like you're an interesting person. I'm going to accept you." And that's how I found out that they not only threw me out of their school, discriminated against me, did not abide by the American Disability Act, did not accommodate my disabilities, and threw me out because of my political opinions. And then the Department of Education, during the time Hillary Clinton was running for office, Senate office in New York, claimed the case was, quote, groundless. The new school professors continued to haunt me up to 2001, 2002, when several political science professors at Fairleigh who were alumni at the New School for Social Research gave me bad grades, so I could not graduate from there either. And I'm left with a large student loan, which I posted, and I can discuss it some later time. I posted it on my CNN site. So that's what happened there. And I did only have two, it says in my book, I only having to complete 2 more classes to graduate. I always thought my future in political science as wide open with numerous possibilities until that night on April 22nd that David Plotke threw me out of the Department of Political Science in 1999. Unfortunately, that proved untrue since he threw me out. David Plotke, the professor at the new school, told me in no uncertain terms that I was not the type of person the new school wanted walking around with their degree, stating the new school's, quote, prestigious name on it, unquote. Ironically, the new school was an institution I had attended only owing to its reputation, which placed great pride and emphasis on allowing students to complete academic freedom of thought. I thought the school was very liberal, and it was known for giving students complete freedom of academic thought without dictating what is and what was not politically correct to write about, and what was they wanted me to discuss. Yet surprisingly, dismissal from the program at the new school and blow to my graduate work study there should not have been completely unexpected. I wrote, since the semester prior to my being dismissed from the school entirely, the school refused allowing me to conduct my graduate thesis work on the subject of whether NATO and Bill Clinton committed war crimes against the former Yugoslavia during the unilaterally declared Kosovo War in 1999, in which Bill Clinton decided to bomb the former Yugoslavia, comprised of Montenegro and Serbia, and Kosovo then, without United Nations Security Council approval first. I was taking a human rights class with the Iranian ambassador, and the Iranian ambassador for several years, for a few years, in Professor Adamantia Paulus's class. She was a Greek professor at the New School who taught human rights. And I was very surprised because she had sued the New School herself for being a female. You can Google this, it's true. And being discriminated against. She won her lawsuit, and now she is making as high a pay grade as the men do at the New School. But I was very surprised that she was too scared to support me in the case. And on several other occasions when I took her classes, she had told me privately that she did not want me to write about the Serbs being persecuted by the Albanians, that she privately wanted me to write the paper I posted about the Muslims in Turkey and Germany being discriminated against instead. And she hid a lot of her more radical readings. And after the first night of class, she would go to the library and remove them. She was fearful of her job still, although she probably won't admit this. This is what I witnessed during my class periods with her. I became friends, as stated, with, well, this comes later in the book, with both the Iranian ambassador Mohammed and Amir, who gave me a letter of recommendation to get into the Fairleigh Dickinson program, who formerly lived in Hackensack, which is also true. I just do want to add one thing I didn't mention in the book. I was taking a class by the founder and president of the Social Science Research Council in New York City. It's a prestigious organization. He gets lots of government funding, headed by a professor that teaches at Columbia named Robert Latham. He wrote The Liberal Moment and some other material that I liked then. Unfortunately, in his class, and the Iranian ambassador and the ambassador from Oman was present in the class, he gave me a failing grade, and I was thrown and dismissed from the New School. But in Robert Latham's class, there was a man from Albania there, an exchange student of some, I thought he was some diplomatic or governmental official. Anyway, he said in front of the whole class that I took, I forget the name of it, that he wanted, as an Albanian, he agreed with committing genocide against Serbs in Kosovo, and when he was done taking classes at the New School, he was going back to Kosovo to commit genocide against Orthodox Christians, me, and Serbs. And I looked at him, as everyone in the class did, shocked. It was a human rights type of class, history class, European history, the Roman Empire. Anyway, I said to this man from Albania who was in my class, I said, I'd really like to see what you're writing about. And he looked at me, and in front of everyone, I swear, he said, quote, Jill, you'll die before you ever see what I wrote on my paper, on my project, unquote. I told this incident to this guy from genocide against Serbs, and he threatened me in the class to David Palkey, but instead he got to graduate, or continued, and I was thrown out a month later. This will end this portion of my reading. I hope that you've learned quite a bit from it. I would not want anyone else's child to go through what I did at the New School for Social Research, Fairleigh Dickinson, or the Seton Hall Diplomacy Department. I will see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Ciao.